Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and yes, it's 2023. We have one of our favorite guests on. We have Dr. Angela Celeste May, and she is our clinical, organizational, and forensically trained psychologist. She is a co-founder and past president of the Metro Detroit Association of Black Psychologists. She is a former American Psychological Association National Diversity Delegate. She's the past president of the Michigan Psychological Foundation or Association Board, co-founder and president of A.M. and Associates. She is currently on the board of trustees for the Michigan Health Council and the Drug-Free Youth in Detroit Advisory Council, and she is also a faculty at Wayne County Community College. She is also an international vocalist and multiple instrumentalist, including performing at Carnegie Hall, hence her shirt.
Oh, yeah.
And in the 2019 movie Solomon, she is founder and president of Celeste Productions Incorporated. She is a band leader, music educator, composer, producer, and she has released 2 CDs of original music. And if that's not everything, she's also an author and a public speaker. And she is our guest tonight, as we talk about setting the vision for 2023. Good evening, Dr. Angie. How are you?
Good evening. I'm doing very well. How are you? And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's get right to it. So at the end of 2022, we talked about the importance of reflection. Will you talk about the importance of setting a vision for ourselves?
Setting a vision for ourselves. It is so important. I think our various traditions, like, depending on your background or where you come from, your culture, we've done this as a human race, as humanity, since we've been in existence. Mm-hmm. But people talk about it a lot now. It's sort of trending, as they say, this idea of visualization. Everybody and their mom is using the term manifest your vision, that kind of thing. And it really is very powerful, that idea of imagining what it is that you want to do, what you want to be, your goals. So we can do this at any time of the year, but definitely kicking off a new year in January is a great time to do that. And it's important because it helps to set a roadmap. It helps to kind of like set your path and gives you more clarity about the direction that you want to go in. So it's not that we have to know everything right off the get-go. We're still learning. We may make changes to that vision, but at least as a starting point to help spur us forward, setting that idea of where you want to go is really important.
Excellent. So I knew I came to the right place. And so for those, and I'm going to share my vision for 2023, because I've had to explain it to people, and people are like, oh, that's a really good one. And I know that TikTok may be on the verge of being banned all across the United States, but they have this video that basically says, this year, I am on Do Not Disturb. I am booked and busy. I am taking care of me. And so my vision is being unapologetically myself. That means everywhere I go, I'm not code switching. I am comfortable in my skin, however I speak. And, for a lot of people, especially African Americans, sometimes we have been taught you have to speak a certain way around other cultures. And I understand that. I use correct English all the time. I'm not necessarily great with slang. I do it on occasion with really good friends of mine. And it's, when we're just being goofy and silly. But otherwise than that, I don't necessarily use it. But I don't want to have to feel like I have to be someone else. I want to discover fun and what brings me joy. I want to put myself first, as the kids on TikTok say, I got to put myself first. but not at the expense of I'm not helping people.
Mhm.
I will still use my gifts, share them, extend them to others. However, I'm not burning myself out any
Mhm.
longer doing that. And so, having shared that, Dr. Angie, if someone is struggling, and a lot of times people will say, well, Kim, that's great because you thought about that. But I have no idea what the vision should be in my life. I work in an office, maybe I work in retail, maybe I work in a restaurant. All I know is I want something better than what I have. Or maybe I want to go back to school, but I don't have an idea of how to do it. Or maybe I don't even know what I want to do. All I know is I'm in this season of life, wherever I am, whether I'm just a mom, I'm a wife, a girlfriend, maybe I'm single and alone, and I'm trying to figure it out. What are some things that we should keep in mind when we think about putting together a vision to not make it so complicated for ourselves?
That's a great question, especially the way you ended it, to not make it so complicated for ourselves. Because I think for a lot of people, it does sound like it's got to be complicated. People that do vision boards, which is excellent,
Mhm.
wonderful, but that idea of, well, wait, I got to get a board, and I got to wait. What do I need some consultants?
Exactly.
So it can't even just starting to think
Mhm.
about some things can sound over
Mhm.
feel overwhelming and sound um like I don't have the expertise to even
Mhm.
start that.
Mhm.
So the first thing to realize is that you don't have to be an expert, and you don't have to have any prior training or anything to just start. So something that's one thing to keep in mind, that
Mhm.
we all have, whether we realize it or not, a place to start.
Mhm.
That's one thing. Second thing is, um, keep in mind that you have permission to think about what you want. And that's really, really important and key, because thinking about think about what I want. For some people, it can feel selfish, depending on how they were
Mhm.
raised, what they were taught.
Mhm.
For some people, it can feel like you said, I don't know what I want. I'm not sure what I want. And so it can feel overwhelming.
Mhm.
For some people, the idea of thinking about what I want, it sounds like, well, I need somebody to tell me that.
Mhm.
That's why I'm hiring you, or that's why I'm
Mhm.
talking. Uh, so that whole idea of permission, to give ourselves permission to think about what we want, also includes recognizing that you are your own expert, even if
Mhm.
you don't know it. And what I mean by that, a minute ago, I said you don't have to have any prior training or any of that kind of stuff, or formal training just to start. It's true. But the reason I say you're your own expert is because you have lived in your skin, in your body, in your
Mhm.
head since the beginning, since you've been born. So you have some, if take a moment and breathe and think about it, you do have some ideas about what you like, what you don't like. Um, and that's the third thing that's really important, is to
Mhm.
take the time, take the time to really sit and or walk, or however, whatever helps clear your mind, and take time to think about it.
Mhm.
And that in and of itself feels revolutionary to a lot of people, that they've
Mhm.
been on a treadmill, or they've always done what they were told, or maybe they have been pursuing something that they really love and thought that they wanted, but like you said, they may be in a season where they want to make a change.
Mhm.
um, so it can feel like starting from scratch again.
Mhm.
um, but it is important, and you not only have permission, but you're it's worth it. It's worth it, and it is important to just take some time to ask yourself some questions about, well, what do I want? What do I like?
Mhm.
What are the things that I'm doing in my life, or who are the people I'm around who may cause me stress? Who are the people I'm around, or what are the things that I do that makes me feel better?
Mhm.
Just those starting questions can be great building blocks. And I would also say that it doesn't have to come all at once. Don't put extra pressure on yourself that you have to know. I need to know the answer by,
Exactly.
just start to ask questions, and you'll find that you'll begin to notice things. You'll begin to, just as you go through your day, as you go through the weeks, some things will start to stand out to you, or you'll be reminded of some things, or whatever the case, that can begin to fill in that puzzle for you, and to start giving you a clear idea of what next directions you might want to take. But you may not be open to it, and you may never see it if you don't at least begin by asking yourself, well, what is it that I want to do? What do I think I want to do? I don't know what I want to do, but what am I good at? What gives me joy? What makes me, those kinds of things.
And those are important to remember. And those are great points, Dr. Angie. I'm
so sorry, I have to plug this in so it doesn't.
Yes. Yes. We'll continue to talk. So, years ago when I was younger, I would create a list of resolutions. And every January 1st, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And I'd have a nice little list. And by January 5th or January 15th or whatever it was, I would have lost track of my resolutions. I would have been frustrated. What would you say to someone? Because I just had this conversation with a friend. She has made a resolution, or not a resolution. She has made a vision for herself that she wants to have balance in her life. And when you work in a position that has a lot of responsibility, you're managing a classroom, a hospital, you have patients, you have clients because you're an attorney, whatever it is, and you are struggling with work-life balance, and then something happens, and I'm going to say you fall off the wagon. You got up and you were like, okay, I'm going to leave work every day at the end of the day and leave work at home. Or at work. Sorry, see, that was a Freudian slip. You got to leave work at work. Yeah. And then what happens? We put some papers in our bag. Oh, I'll read this when I get home, because then I can leave work and go home and relax and watch Netflix, read a book, eat a nice meal, call a friend, whatever it is, and you end up still working at home. So you haven't separated from your workplace. Or maybe you went on vacation at the beginning of the year and you said, I'm not going to answer my work emails. And all of us know who have our work emails on our phones, I can't get away from it. Or I'm not going to bring my laptop, but then there was a project or something and you were like, well, I just need to check. And the next thing you know, you're down the rabbit hole and you're like, what is happening in the office? And you've lost your separation. You've fallen off the wagon. And now you're frustrated because you said, well, one of the visions that I set for myself is I was going to have work-life balance. How do we reset ourselves when we miss our mark at a certain point, even if it's day 2 or day 56? How do we do that?
Well, the first thing to realize is that stating it, saying the thing that you want to do, proclaiming the resolution or whatever it is, it's important, but it is a first step, which means there are other steps that you have to take in order to realize that, in order to make it, really make it come true. And that means that we have to operationalize it. So what does that mean? Operationalize it. It means take the thing you want to do, the thing you want to accomplish, and sort of backwards engineer it. Okay, so if I want to do X, okay, so what do I need to do with LMNOP, QRS, TUV,
WX? Exactly. Yes.
Right, exactly. Let alone A, B, C, D, and E. So we don't put like that. We don't build that foundation underneath it oftentimes to help make it come true. So we have to put those things in place and think, and it can be trial and error where you try some things, it doesn't work, try it again, you tweak it, but at least you're in the process of building the foundation underneath your idea, your resolution, or whatever it is, to make it happen. So if we take your example of leaving work at work. So if you're going to leave work at work, and yes, you're right, a lot of people will say the words, I'm going to leave my papers or whatever the case is. And let's say by day 2, or whatever day,
Yep.
like you said, but that afternoon you're putting papers in. So one of the things I find most helpful that I encourage other people to do is don't just say, oh man, I messed up, and oh man, this is hard all day. Really look at it and take a real investigative approach and try to, it's a personal thing because it's like, oh man, it's really important to you, but work on being objective enough to stand back every time you find yourself not quite doing it the way you wanted to, and say, okay, well, wait, let me just take a look at it and analyze. Well, I did, why did I ask yourself questions? Oh, why did I take those papers? Well, because I didn't get the work done I need to get done to get ready for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to leave work at 5, which was part of my commitment, great. In order to be ready for tomorrow, leaving at 5 is not giving me enough time to get everything done. Now, there's this, this part of it. And this is where really setting our boundaries and sticking to them comes into play. We talk about setting boundaries with other people, letting people know, well, I'm not going to let you go only so far. These are my boundaries, so you don't disrespect me, etc. But we also have to set boundaries with ourselves.
Yes.
And it often starts with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that often happens is, using that example again of taking the papers home, is we make assumptions all over the place. So we make assumptions about how much time we're going to need to get the work done. We make assumptions about what's going to be, what I need to have ready tomorrow. We, make all kinds of assumptions. So one of the things that's important to do as we're tweaking this and trying to make this thing work is really look at how much time do I really need to get this done, and really try to work on being realistic and honest with yourself. And if you're not sure, because a lot of times what happens is, how we're going through our day, as we go through our day, we tell ourselves all kinds. I mean, I've done this. I've been guilty of this. We spin yarns. We tell all kinds of stories about how, about 2 o'clock I'm going to blah, blah, and then it's like 3:45 or 4:15 when you get to it. Yeah, exactly. So sometimes it's because, other things come into play. Oftentimes life happens, things unexpected come up. So one of the things we need to do with our time management, has to do with time management, is to be realistic and build in cushion, because life, that's just life. You cannot always control that. So building cushion means if I want to leave at 5, and I've been telling myself, oh, I'll be done at 4:45. I can start putting stuff away. If you're thinking that, then you really need to, there's a couple ways you can do it. You need to think, if you really think you're going to be done at 4:45, make it 4 o'clock. Make it 45 minutes or whatever, and shoot for that, so that you're building in time and space for that unexpected phone call, for that unexpected errand. And that's just an example, but it's that idea of, ask questions and keep asking questions of yourself. Well, let me look at this situation. Okay, don't just say I messed up. Say, well, why did I take the papers home? Why did I miscalculate how much time I need? And oftentimes that tends to be the norm. So it wasn't just that day. Like, there are some days that are busier than others, but what you'll begin to find by asking those questions and analyzing it, each time, is you'll begin to see trends. Well, usually I thought 45 minutes, but what I'm finding is I really need to shoot for starting to shut down an hour before. Like, this is what I'm finding out, as an example, because you keep looking at it and tweaking it, and maybe you'll try 45. That's not enough. I really need to start thinking in terms of shutting things down at work at 4 o'clock if I'm going to leave at 5. So you learn the amount of time you need. You learn what you need to do. So what might that mean? That means that you have to practice, and it's a mental practice habit. Maybe you need to practice starting to, wind down the work, send out those end of the day emails for tomorrow, starting to do the things you need to set up. It's not always going to work perfectly that way, but those are the kinds of steps that we need to take. In terms of boundary setting, also, if you do find that you need to take the papers home after all, so that you can get out of there at 5. Okay, so you take the paper, maybe that's what you need to do. So you get out there at 5, take your papers home. One thing to kind of take your time back for yourself is, like you said, give yourself time to relax at home, have that nice meal. And then maybe and it depends on the workload, sometimes depends on that particular project or whatever. But as examples, maybe carve out 45 minutes or an hour after you relax with food, eating, chatting at home, whatever it is. Carve out an hour or whatever it is to look over some work and get ready for the next day, and then put it aside, and then go enjoy that movie, with your kids or your husband or wife or whatever. But you just like kind of find the things that work. Other things that I have found that work, that, working with people and even myself, is that, don't try to fit everything in during your work week. I mean, people's work week varies, but if you happen to have a 9 to 5 where you have a well-defined weekend, that goes
right.
Right. So maybe you can only, don't do the binge. We're not binge watching. You got to get up tomorrow. So, maybe just like catch that favorite show or catch up on the news and give yourself time to relax a little bit, which is important. And, and so, yeah, it takes planning, it takes honesty, and it's a trial and error. You have to keep working at it and figure out what's going to work for you, what's not. Some weeks may be easier than others, but overall, you'll find yourself making progress in terms of taking back your time a little bit. Oh, last thing, I have to mention this. When I was talking about assumptions, a lot of times in trying to give our best work at work, to try to really do what we need to do or go above and beyond, a lot of times we assume that we have to do more than we might actually have to do. And I can hear people say, they'll say, but if I want to move up the ladder, if I want to. So one of the things we talk about nowadays with our unfortunately often unhealthy, toxic westernized ideas about what makes a quality life. There's nothing wrong with trying to climb the ladder and all that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's important for us to understand that there are trade-offs at times, and you have to really be honest with yourself about a lot of self-conversation going on. But what's worth it to you when? There are times when it's important, you need to do that and give that all to the career and do what you need to do. And then there are times when you may need to step back from that. But it depends on who you are. If your whole life is given to that and that feels worth it to you to get where you need to go, then that's important to you. And, and recognize that and try to build, your own recreation times around that. Maybe a crossword puzzle and some solitaire, a couple games of solitaire before you go and get ready for bed. And you don't have much, you may not have much more than that, but take a few minutes to do that. Take a minute to do a little quick walk. Build in a little time for yourself. And maybe you have to wait until the weekend to do that, to give more time for yourself. So everyone's different, but just keep asking and really looking and being honest about what is valuable to you. And, maybe climb. And that's another thing, you and I are Detroiters. There's so many, such an entrepreneurial town. I love it.
Yes.
We know that many of our millennials are very entrepreneurial. They fell out the womb that way, right? So just even in terms of like organizational psychology and understanding, the working, it can look different for different people. So it doesn't always have to be the same thing. If you feel like it's not working for you, there's that word permission again. You have permission to step back, plan for it, and see how it may take a couple of years or whatever, but plan to make that change if you need to. So it's about what's important to you, what's going to work best for you, what's going to help make you feel that you're thriving and living the life that you value.
And those are important. And I'm glad you brought up assumptions. And I'm so happy you talked about having permission to do these things for yourself, because it is important. Because oftentimes we look at our responsibilities or who we take care of, whether it's our children, our spouses, other family members, friends, whatever it is. And we sort of get caught up in, I don't have time for me. I have to worry about everybody else, which is one of the reasons that I came up with my vision for myself. But I also want to talk about really quickly journaling. And we've talked about that a lot. Journaling can help you determine that vision, because you start to talk about your feelings, what you like, what you don't like. What are
Yeah.
your dreams? What are things that you're afraid of? What are things that you've never dared to say to anyone that maybe you want to accomplish,
Mhm.
that you may have never admitted it to yourself? I told a mother who said, I feel really selfish, but I just need some time for me. And I said, there's nothing selfish in wanting time for you. You have a very young child who requires a lot from you. Yes, you have a husband, and sometimes husbands don't always do the things that a wife needs or a young mom needs, but you have to communicate what you need to them. But even when you do all of that, sometimes you just need time for yourself. It's
Yeah.
not selfish. It's not wrong. And if you're journaling and writing down the things that you're experiencing and how you're feeling, oftentimes that can lead you to where
Absolutely.
you need to do that vision. And then giving yourself permission and not making the assumption that, oh, that's not the expectation. I'm supposed to be the mother and do everything and with a smile on my face, instead of some days where you're like, you know what, today I'm tired. Today I'm tired. And it's okay to be tired. It's okay to be frustrated or angry or whatever it is. Giving yourself permission to feel that. Really quickly, Dr. Angie, what would you tell someone who is struggling in mental health right now? Because mental health is gripping our country like we have never seen before, from the cradle to the grave. And I hate to use those terms, but we've had, extreme violence from 6-year-olds shooting a teacher in the face to, older people shooting up offices, grocery stores, you name it, we've had it. What would you say to people who are struggling with their mental health, who really need to figure out how to put their mental health as a priority and not just keep pushing it to the side saying, oh, I'll get to it. I'm trying to make my way through.
Yeah, you're right. We are struggling with that now. I think maybe more than ever. Across the board, like you said, cradle to the grave, and all kinds of societies. You know what? I feel that part of the reason that it's gotten so out the box is, well, first of all, struggling with mental health is not a new thing, of course. I think it's a combination of a couple of things. On the one hand, not to say that it's not not dire, but not to say that it's not, it's crucial. It's crucial to address. But I do think that even as we're talking about right now, I'm thinking that in some ways it's not worse, but we've realized, and by we, I mean like psychologists and counselors and social workers, people in the mental health field, psychiatrists who have really worked for years to try to destigmatize seeking mental health services, who push to try to get our broader societies to recognize and accept that your mental health is as important as taking care of any other aspect of your health. On the one hand, we're seeing finally people talking about this out loud and sharing this, that this is real, and people are sharing their stories, and that's so important. And so, and so I think that's part of why it appears that it's worse than ever. It's definitely challenging in just new ways. There's no doubt about that. But I do think part of that, what looks like the prevalence of it, is, I guess you could say, informed by the fact that it's not something that's hidden in the closet anymore. So when we've seen it over the decades, when we've seen people struggle with it, or rather, I should say, when people have struggled with it, we may not have seen it or seen it to recognize it for what it is. We may have called it other things. So I will say that particularly in communities of color, Black, Latin, Asian, just, you know, a lot of different communities where, and even class wise, you know, different
Mm-hmm.
classes of people, where the idea of seeking help for, or even, you know, forget seeking help, having anything going on emotionally or mentally, psychologically in our emotions, just the even idea of admitting that you're having some struggles, you know, with that had been so stigmatized for so long. So what did we see? We saw a great prevalence of, and we still see it, of course, too, but, you know, drug and alcohol abuse, a real prevalence of people acting out in a lot of ways that we didn't understand or think to tie to mental health struggles. So I know I do want to just say that part of it. It doesn't mean that things in a lot of ways have gotten worse, unfortunately, in terms of mental health struggles, but that's one part of it that it's open more. You know, the good of it is that we are talking about that with each other and sharing, so people know they're not alone, or can at least have a greater opportunity to find out they're not alone. Of course, the downside is that we're, you know, seeing that all over. So there's that. As you've talked about many times in the last, golly, is it 3 years? Is it 4 years now? 3 years?
Three,
COVID, my
three,
goodness.
three.
Yes, gosh. Yeah, the worldwide pandemic has, you know, obviously just magnified whatever emotional problems and struggles people have had. So that's added, of course. And so to get to your question, to get to the answer, I believe and have seen that one of the things that I would say to people struggling is one of the things, at least in our particular country, one of the levers of help that has been somewhat, not, I don't know how to put it, like people are stepping away from their spiritual ties. I'll put it that way.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Yes. Yes. Many people are not. There are lots of people, don't get me wrong, who are clinging tighter than ever to their spiritual ties in these challenging times. But there's also reports of young people, you know, of younger generations, you know, and a lot, sometimes because they've seen things that has disappointed them. They've seen hypocrisy in their churches, or, you know, wherever it is that they, that maybe their families had gone to church and things like that. And so they'll say, we hear more people saying that, well, you know, I'm spiritual, but not really religious. And spiritual ties, very important. Religious ties, very important. But that sense of community, that sense of grounding in your spirituality, that sense of a prayer life, that sense of, you know, all of those things. You know, I'll speak as a Black person who is an African American. I know for my people and for your people and for our people, were it not for the strong ties to a God in our lives, if anyone, and it doesn't mean, you know, that folks didn't have their, you know, struggles, but if anyone was going to have some psychological and mental health damage and struggle, it was going to be people who were told that you're a piece of property.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and so is your baby who's not even born. So that's one thing I would definitely say to people is, if you have been religious, or, you know, and stepped away from that, you know, I would encourage you to explore that. If you haven't been, I would, you know, encourage you to explore that, because with it comes, like I said, a community. With it, if you get with a church or a synagogue or a group of people who are supportive to you, of course, you have people you can lean on. You have people who support you. You have people who will pray for you. You have people who will mother you and father you, and you know, and you know, with whom you can talk to it. So that the support, you know, I've said, you know, many times, you know, I've talked about the importance of a support network. So for people struggling, I would very much encourage you to tap into your support network. If you feel like you don't have one, if you feel like you're just out here, there are, you know, there are 24-hour hotlines for suicide prevention. There's, there are resources, and we should post that as well. I should have that at my fingertip, that are national. And I know you have an international audience. There are organizations internationally as well who are, that's what they do. They're there to reach out and support you and try to help you get help for what you are struggling with. So I would encourage people to seek out those services. You can do it anonymously. If you're a minor, you can do that, without your parents' permission, just to call and say, I need some help. The process may require some other things, of course, but just to start that. So another thing I would say, and I would say this, I say this just over and over and over again. I know that people who are struggling with their mentality talk about, how painful it can be. And it is a battle for many people. But I will say that it is never, ever, 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 it is never better when you're not here.
Yes.
Never been. It is absolutely devastating to people around you, people who love you, people who interact with you, people who look for you at school, people who are, can't wait till you get in at work or wherever, come to church. It absolutely is devastating for you to, consider harming yourself. So, and another thing is part of what we're seeing, the prevalence of people struggling, it is all ages. No doubt about that. We are seeing, like we've talked about before, particularly younger people having a lot of struggle in particular, and feeling that it will never change. And that's an aspect of just maturity. So I would say to, all of our young people, like my great aunt used to say that my great grandma used to say, used to quote my great grandmother, and they would say, just keep living. Keep living.
That's it.
Because it does change. It does change. Things do get better. They can get better, but you have to be here to try to work on, getting them better. So yeah, reach out, even if it's just a one person, call the resources that are out there. That's what they do 24 hours to try to help you connect with someone. Embrace your spirituality and whatever religious affiliations. And, our various religious affiliations, also to go back to that, they're sources of joy, and, people say it feeds their soul. It's sources of joy and sources of uplift for a lot of people. And I would encourage people again, but I definitely am seeing, what is the term that's opposite of sacred? I can't remember the term.
Cheap, easy.
Cheap.
Well, sacred means it has value.
Right. It's like
reverence, respect.
Sacred, pedestrian. It's like, there's a term.
I can't think of it at the moment, but I understand something that you don't value, that you don't hold in high regard. And you should definitely hold yourself in high regard and value yourself. Absolutely. And just like you just talked about, making sure that you check in on yourself, that you evaluate and reflect on how you're feeling, and set that vision for yourself so that you can get past whatever it is. And it is better for you to be here. We wake up every day in America with, unfortunately, a new set of something violent having happened in our nation. And it has become so prevalent where every day there's something. Someone is sending me a video, or I'm seeing something on Twitter. There was a shooting, and I'm just like, is it not ending? And we keep having the age-old conversation of, well, if a good guy, I'm tired of hearing about good guys having guns, because they can't bring anybody back who's been lost. And if I've lost a child, or my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, my uncle, my spouse, whomever it is, has been lost to gunfire or some type of violence. It is just there's nothing that can bring them back. That is permanent, that is final, and that is wreaking havoc on our national psyche, our national soul. And so I just thank you, Dr. Angie, for speaking to that and bringing that up, because it was very important that, we talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, a couple of other things too is one of the reasons that I want to speak about the sacred practices and things like that is because, like I said, there's such an anchor. I think a lot of people who are struggling with mental health issues and pain, there's that feeling of, I just have no place to go. I've got no place to take this feeling. So I would also say to them, like you were talking about, and like you said, we've talked about lots of times, journaling, writing it down is a place to put it. That's a place to put it. And by putting it down, you can, again, like you said, it can give you clarity. You can work out some of your feelings. You can start to work out some of the whys, talking with other people. There's always this feeling that, well, no, this is classic, especially again with our younger people sometimes. No one's ever felt this. I guarantee.
Someone else has felt this. Yes.
Yes. But if we stay quiet and silent, we don't get a chance to find that out. Right. And there's actually a psychological term for that. There's all these different terms when we're looking at developmental psychology that is, as you know, raising a couple of young ones. And we've all been, teenagers and stuff. There are a few psychological terms that specifically deal with that developmental age when we're growing up. And we really do feel that we are the only person who's ever gone through this. And therefore, we think no one will understand. But remember, younger people, in order for people to get older, they had to go through what you're going through to get there. So
that's right.
Yes, absolutely. So, and if you do reach out and talk to someone and you don't feel supported, there are other people.
So go find somebody else. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Angie, for a great show and coming on. Now, here's our fun part. Now, tell us how we can find you, how we can follow you, and everything that you have coming up, because I know you have a lot.
Okay, I do have a lot. I have this up, so I'll make sure I read it correctly. Well, coming up in a couple of days is my sister and I, my business partner, Celeste May, and I will be, my sister's moderating a panel, and I am on the panel here in Detroit on this Friday. And it is for Sphinx, the Sphinx organization. So Sphinx Connect, which, as we know, does a lot nationally to support Black and Brown classical musicians and string. So they're hosting something that specifically deals with, we're going to be talking about mental health and our Black and Brown artists. So that is this Friday. It's if you're physically here, it's at the Marriott Hotel Renaissance Center right downtown. Our panel, it will be from 10:20 to 11:20 in the morning on this Friday. You can also go to find information at Sphinx Con, C-O-N for conference. So Sphinx Con 23. So you can go to that hashtag and find out more information, because you can also join virtually. So do check that out. I will be performing in this March. So that's coming. I'll give more information about that. I will be performing coming up.
Yay.
Yes. I have more. I'm excited about that. But in the meantime, do pick up a copy of my book, Freedom: What is the Experience of Living Without Negative Self-Imposed Limitations, at Amazon, at Xfinity. I think it's still at barnesandnoble.com also. People have found it very helpful. We talk about how to get, my interviewees, people I interviewed for the research, talk about how they went from being stuck to being free in various aspects of their lives. And people have found the 7 key themes has been very helpful, regardless of your age or background. So do check that out. What else am I doing? I'm teaching, of course, Celeste Productions, my production company. So I am teaching voice and piano lessons. So you can contact me at CELESTEMUS and the number 1 at AOL.com if you are interested in lessons. I will be doing more performing. So watch out for my Reverb Nation site. That's Angela Celeste May on Reverb Nation. So we give more information about my music. Come to AMMayandassociates.com, my website with my sister for our company where we do counseling, consulting, and coaching. To find out all things about what we're doing. We're working on we're updating our website right now. So the other one is still there. It'll still be the same name, but yeah, we're working on refreshing that. So we've got some things coming up, including we should be starting to advertise for our next women's coaching mastermind group coming up also. What else? Oh, I'm also working on I'm helping the National Association of Black Psychologists plan their convention, which will be here in Detroit in July. So that's very, very exciting. They will be coming here. So I'll be sharing more information about that. And you can find me on, it's Angela Celeste May. So find me on Facebook, YouTube, almost. I'm not on TikTok, but find me on Instagram. Follow me for things that I'm doing these days. So, and I'm still faculty at Wayne County Community College District as well. And I do doctoral coaching. Among the types of coaching that we do at my company with my sister, I do doctoral coaching, and we also offer creative coaching and personal and professional coaching. So that's some of what I'm doing.
Excellent. That was a mouthful. Thank you again, Dr. Angie, for being on the Kim B. Davis Show. We know that in February, you'll have another exciting topic, and we can't wait to get to that conversation next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning into the Kim B. Davis Show. You know, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok while it's still here, Snapchat, LinkedIn, everywhere on social media. And it's Kimberly Batchelor Davis. Batchelor is spelled BATCHELOR. You can see this show on youtube.com/Kimberly Batchelor Davis. You can hear this show on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitch, Wisdom. You can learn more about me as an author at kimbdavis.com. Thank you again for tuning in. And as always, remember.
Yes. I'm so sorry. Just before you say your wonderful tagline, I do want to leave your audiences with a contact if they're
please. Yes.
Okay, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 988. So just 988, and that's national. Or people can text GO as in go to 741741 to reach out to a trained crisis counselor. So these are 24 hours, 7 days a week, and they're global. They're there globally for you. So remember 988. You can also dial that.
And then repeat the second number again for me one more time, Dr. Angie.
Absolutely. Call 988 for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, or text GO, which is capital G, capital O, to 741741 to reach a trained crisis counselor through Crisis Text Line, which is a global not-for-profit organization. It's free. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's confidential.
Very good. This is why we do what we do here on the Kim B. Davis Show, because we are about impacting and helping people. So thank you again, Dr. Angie, for being on. Thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, remember, be magnificent.